And just so everyone's aware, we really don't have a set time for how long this is going to run, so we're going to try to knock out as much as we can. And I'm sure a lot of the questions might be, we'll find out that as we go on, we've already answered it in one way or another, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I got to scroll through all the beginning stuff when we said yes, 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 and everything. Okay, so one of the first questions here, would you make sure you are hosting on a different name server and IP address for SRPSh sites versus the corporate site, or simply use the same host as available? We use the same host all the time, and we actually use the same IP. We used to use multiple IP hosting, but about a year ago, actually a little over a year ago, switched everything to Cloudflare. And what Cloudflare is it's basically called as a content delivery network. Now, if you go sign up for Cloudflare, you can sign up and get a free account, and it doesn't cost you anything, and you can add as many domains as you want to it, basically. And it'll give you its own name servers to put in at your registrar for your domain. You know, typically you would put in your host's name servers, but in this case you would actually put in Cloudflare's name servers. And what that does, it actually does DNS masking. So if you actually went and pinged the site or something, it looks like it's on different IPs. And not just to mention, not just the fact that it looks like it's on different IPs, there's also millions of sites that are using the same name servers. So that's the way we got around all the multiple IP hosting and don't use it at all anymore. Have one IP address on every one of the servers and don't bother with any kind of multiple IP hosting anymore. The Cloudflare is actually really easy to set up. So once you sign up, you just add your domain. It basically walks you through all the steps. Let's see. Could you explain how to use the bit.ly link? Well, bit.ly, I mean, if you want to use bit.ly or something for some of the offers or something that you're sending people to, or if, for instance, you're using something like SEMeasy's double agent, and you want to send it to it, and you're bringing up a different site inside that iframe lightbox, or like we were just saying, if you're using something like, for instance, ClickBank, and not wanting to leave a bare link or something, you could use a bit.ly link. Can you bring up bit.ly for 1 second on your screen?
Okay.
Now, if you wanted to, you just paste the link in there to shorten it, whatever it would be, google.com or anything, and you can just shorten it. Or you can sign up for an account and then a free account and just be able to look at the statistics. So now you got a shortened bit.ly link. Now you could use that on your site if you wanted to. A lot of times I'll do something like just make another 301 redirect. I don't know. Is there any plugins that you can think of that you used recently that worked really well for anything like that?
That pretty links.
Pretty links? Pretty URLs? Is that what it was? Or pretty links? I don't remember.
Pretty links. Let me see. Pretty.
The pretty links just does a redirect from your main domain, I think, right? From the domain you're on currently.
Pretty link like, but that you would basically install it and wherever you wanted to send that traffic to, you know, you can just add a new link to google.com and change this to Google. And I think people do it like no follow and some other stuff, but I don't know. I mean, I don't use that much, but basically now you have this HTTP, you know, this will be off of your domain. But I think what people were saying with bit.ly was that's what you would use as the link that you put in like double agent. So it didn't see where the traffic was really coming from or something like that. If you were using double agent to show a main AdSense site instead of the SRPSh site as the AdSense site. But I mean, I've done my SRPSh sites as the AdSense sites. I don't do anything where I kind of display another site on top with better AdSense ads, I guess, is what they're trying to do. But I think that was, if I remember correctly, that was something that I saw on Facebook.
Oh, okay. How would you go about ranking in a location/city that does not have multiple counties, cities, etc.?
So just ranking for us one specific city.
I'm guessing.
Okay, but that would be a different approach. I mean, that, you know, what we're trying to do, we're trying to rank for as many little cities as possible.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess you could do. I mean, typically it would be outside the realm of what we would normally do. That we won't build the sites that way. But if I was going to do it, in that case, I might would have to think of different short codes to make with that city name, and probably have about 3 or 4 different short codes with that same city name in them and something else after them, and put those short codes in, and just kind of, you know, build probably about 4 or 5 different types of SERP shaker posts, as 4 or 5 different seed posts, and use those short codes in each one, and then I'd probably have, so that I would end up having about at least, you know, 20 different posts for the same city over and over again out of each one of those 4 or 5 posts, if that makes any sense. That's the only way I can think of that I would actually do that. I mean, I don't. You got any idea how you would do it, Andres? Because that's not exactly something I would typically do.
I want to say, you know, I had a company that I work with, a water damage restoration company, and I did something similar to what you said. I mean, I think they only had like 5 or 10 cities they wanted to target. So we took a lot of little keywords that you normally would not waste your time trying to target, because if you're working with a local company, you want to focus on the main ones. But we took, I think it ended up being a list of about 100 or so of those supporting keywords, you know, like sort of like, you know, fix bathtub leak, or, you know, just random little ones that, you know, they were somewhat related to the services he would related. So we took those 100 keywords, we took those 10 cities, ended up with about, you know, 1,000 different posts, and we put up a site with it, and, you know, it actually ended up bringing a good amount of traffic by doing it that way. You would just have to make sure that the content that you use, if you're going to do it like that, it's something that's very general and applies to every single one of those keywords. Because, you know, instead of using city, you'd be more focused on keywords. You know, the thing that would change the most from post to post would be the keywords.
He actually had said after that, he goes, the bot is a desert with 3 cities, that's why. Basically just making a joke there. But one of the things that I believe it's Ganti, something he said right here is something that's definitely true. If you're doing something for, let's say, offline clients, and you're basically setting up things because you're driving traffic to those clients, what Ganti said is one who controls the access to these sites, and the ownership to these sites will call the shots and make money. So I would not give control to the corporate sites. I want to control them, which is true, because somebody doesn't pay you or something later on, or that company decides to cancel, it makes better sense to drive the traffic to those people and have control over them, because then you can go to one of their competitors and basically change a few things and start driving traffic to them. So keeping control of those types of sites makes perfect sense in most cases.
Right.
Let's see. Hold on here. Neat edit for dynamic shortcodes. Yeah, John, I know that. I'm gonna put that in there.
Any what? Oh, edit.
They were asking for edit for the dynamic shortcodes. What I was gonna add in there. Most of the time, I think we take it for granted because you're using a plugin like we do, the same copy. So we kind of take for granted. I mean, we do these sites and walk away from them typically don't ever come back to them and do much with them. So we could not use shortcode for city in the dynamic.
Right.
Right, yeah, you would never use the other shortcode and put it inside a dynamic shortcode.
And if you do, it's just going to show up as the squiggly bracket city or squiggly bracket state or whatever. It's not going to actually replace it, because the way dynamic shortcodes work is they load up every time the post loads up. They don't get built as part of the actual text. The body article text. It's something that's, you know, always kind of changing with every load. So you know, they wouldn't, if you put the city in there, it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't actually show the correct city.
Yeah, what is the limit for dynamic shortcode size, John? The shortcode size, I think I put this in Facebook, was, you know, it's like 64,000 something. It's probably around 64,000 characters is what it's supposed to be, but sometimes that might get truncated. You wouldn't want to make something that big anyway for the dynamic shortcodes, because you have to remember, if you put stuff in there with syntax, etc. in there, you're using up some processing power every time it displays one of those pages with a dynamic shortcode. They were really made to be things like where you could put different types of things, like I said, spin ads or stuff like that, or actually put paragraphs like you see Andre's doing with syntax in them to display somewhere on the page. It really wasn't meant to make like a whole other post. Let's see. Why would you get a page not found? I built 5 pages to test and only the first showed up. Not really.
Not really sure. You might best thing would be a support ticket so we can go in.
Yeah, you'd have to put that. You have to put that in so that, yes, so, you know, someone in support, one of us could look at it, because there could be numerous reasons why something like that could happen. That could be anything from the host to the WordPress install to some other plugin conflict, anything. Why do you build 10 posts and then delete? Yanti, the reason we did that was just because we want to make sure. A lot of people were putting the posts, making a shaker post for the seed content, and what they were doing was they were building everything, sitting there waiting for the whole build process to get done with, and then find out they actually had problems, like little errors to correct, like you saw with Andre's. If you were watching where he had a couple errors, he wanted to go back and correct. So if you only build 10, then hit delete, you know, after you fix any of the issues, then go through and build the entire thing, you save yourself a bunch of time, a bunch of headache. Let's see. Kevin, that must be Kevin from inside Facebook. He goes, seems like this is a list of mistakes Kevin made. I think I saw him say that earlier when we were talking about some of the mistakes at the beginning, the 14 mistakes. Which is the best host to run these sites? I have Beyond Host, Reseller Hosting, and Server VIP Hosting. Any suggestions? Typically with a regular shared host like HostGator or whatever, you know, you're going to have those set limitations, so you might want to use, sometimes you might have to do a workaround, like Andres was showing when we walked through the workaround on if something times out. Now with something like Beyond Hosting, you should have something like a BPS, and you actually have control over the PHP settings and things like that inside the WHM panel inside of Beyond Hosting. And if anybody has questions about that kind of stuff, I think you put up a thing, didn't you, with the WHM settings? But I'll go through some other stuff as well. And add it to the Facebook.
I did. I want to say that I did. Yeah, I did a video on timing out, and I specifically talked about which you wanted to, the PHP that INI settings that you wanted to change, and how do you do that through WHM, which would be the easiest way without having to log in directly into the server. And also there's a few settings on WordPress that you might need to change if you also keep on timing out. That it's also in that video specifically. And the link I'm showing here on the screen is just for that WP Migrate, your plugin that I showed that I was using to. I posted it on Facebook too, but just in case you were interested, that will take you straight there.
Hold on 1 second. I lost my place here for a minute. Let's see. This is okay. I already did that. So I'm not sure what you said. Can that be put in the post append section of Shaker where you juggle post dates? I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. So
what is that again? Say that again.
You said, can that be put in the post append section of Shaker where you juggle post dates? And I'm not sure what he's talking about. What can be put in there?
It must have been something we talked about at that specific moment. Okay.
Okay. Is AdSense going to work well with double agent? Well, the double agent, like I said before, double agent was core conversion at one time when I owned it, and then I sold it to SemEasy, and then SemEasy revamped it and everything, and made a totally different product out of it. But as far as that goes, when you're thinking about Lightbox iframe type technology, I had said that I was going to actually test some things with making traffic funnels, a bunch of different sites that were traffic funnels, and send them to one specific site that had AdSense on it, but I don't want to tell anybody else to do that. They can try that on their own, because obviously I think if Google actually went and did a visual on a site that was driving traffic, which I doubt they would since you're not running AdSense on that site specifically, but just in case they did, and then they saw you bringing the other site up in the iframe and stuff, then they might have a problem with that when it comes to AdSense. So for the most part, typically if those sites are getting traffic anyway that they're going to funnel to a main site, then they're pretty much going to get the traffic on those sites anyway, so you're probably going to get just about as many clicks either way you look at it. Let's see. Okay, during the baby steps, say you have a page ranking, have you seen where placing ClickBank ads on the pages kill the ranking of the page? Does this occur with other affiliate links like Amazon? Wes, the only time I saw that, like I was saying, the only time I had a problem with stuff like ClickBank and stuff killing the rankings, I don't know, Andres may chime in if he had a problem, but the only time I had a problem with that is if I was showing the bare ClickBank link, because for some reason Google doesn't like ClickBank.
Yeah, no, I have bare max bounty ads. I think a lot of times my
Right, I never had a problem with CPA ads. I never had a problem with those being bare, but for some reason I think they just have a grudge against ClickBank.
Yeah, no, that's the. I've never personally had any success running ClickBank products with this kind of setup.
I have a lot of success with those either. Actually, some of the ones that I had a lot of success with in the past is actually things that you'll never find in the top 10. Or whatever that they show like on CB Engine and stuff. You actually have to dig deeper where you're looking for stuff that has like gravity of like 25. Those are actually, a lot of times you'll find some real products that actually have real sales pages that convert. I mean, I made some money off of stuff like Pregnancy Miracle and stuff like that before, but ClickBank, for the most part, used to be able to make a ton of sales off of ClickBank, and prior to like 2012, but for some reason lately, ClickBank for the most part doesn't seem to work really well unless like I said, unless you dig really deep. Let's see. How great does the content on these Shaker sites need to be? Any tips on how to create the content? How long are the typical Shaker sites effective money earners? Well, I think we kind of showed how simple the content can be. I know sometimes you're doing a lot of stuff in total spin tax too, right, Andres?
Yeah, I do. Like I said, I do both, just like I showed, and also fully spun. So you can do it both ways. Typically, I end up with around a 500 to 700 word article, and that's after doing like the closing paragraph and stuff. Content does not have to be great. I mean, like I said, we really don't want it to be, because we want to drive them to the click, or to click in one of the ads or something like that. the life of the site, I mean, that's kind of tough because it's just a lot of Google dancing that goes around at first. Um, I will tell you though that there is very possibility of getting some really good steady earners by doing our method. It's just you know, I've
Yeah.
had my share of them, which those are the ones that I flip. You know, I'm not gonna flip a site that I've only had, you know, for 2, 3 months and know that it's gonna die. You know, the ones that I flipped are, you know, have a year of earnings, um, a steady, you know, year of earnings, and you know that's what investors look for. But you know, and then I've also had my other sites that, you know, maybe lasted 2, 3 months before they died out. But you definitely, you know, the way I look at it is, okay, I spent $10 on a domain. Um, how, you know, however much your time is worth actually building it out, and maybe factor in the hosting. And for every single site that I've put out, I've always made that and more. So you're not losing money on, you know, and if you do have one that's a complete dud, you know, the other ones that you have that more than made up for that, you know, just kind of covers your bases there. So you're always going to be, you know, looking to make sure that you're always in the positive ROI. And, you know, with our setup, you know, I'm always in the, you know, positive ROI.
Right. This is going to be a mouthful. Do you have a clone of a national site that is just a skeleton site for people that are having problems building out on a shared host? Patrick, that's like, actually, it's pretty impossible for us to give like a skeleton of one that's already a national site because you have to build the posts and everything. So you wouldn't be able to do anything really with a skeleton that I can think of.
Right, right.
Is it true we can buy AdSense accounts from Fiverr? That I would not know. I never tried to buy an AdSense account. I never tried to buy one on Fiverr either. So
That's one of the ones of mine that got banned. So I think 1 or 2 of mine that got banned were
oh, you
actually,
did buy them?
yes, you can buy them. They're already fully set up. And as soon as you generate money with them, you know, you'll get the postcard verification thing. Um, but yeah, I got those banned. I mean, I got like a check or two out of it, I think, before it got banned. But I mean, the way they set them up, something. When I did that, the guy kept on bombarding me with, you know, wanting to sell me tips and doing all this sort of stuff. Or it was actually kind of crazy too. He would offer me things like, you know, I've got an AdSense account with $600 in it. I'll let you have it for 300 because we can't collect the payment, and you know, things like that. And you know, they would show the screenshot. They would show screenshots, and you know, they would do a team viewer with you to show you that you can actually go into it and whatnot. But I'd be very weary of stuff like that. Creating a
Yeah,
new AdSense account is not.
just tell them. You just tell them. I'm glad you live in a country where you don't go to jail.
But yeah, creating a new one is really not that hard. All you really have to do is just make sure you go through a VPS or a proxy, so you're covering your tracks as far as where you're logging in from, and continue to log in through that VPS or proxy. And also just
Yeah, and
change the spelling, like I said.
and if you go through a proxy, just make sure you clear out all your cookies and everything in the browser.
Right, and that's why I say I prefer the VPS route, because that way, I mean, you don't have to worry
Don't,
about it. It's
don't accidentally forget.
mm-hmm.
I want to bring traffic to my site and then take them to a landing page. That way I can track. I use CPV Lab for tracking my CPA sales, which, yeah, I have CPV Lab as well. Yeah, I mean, all you'd have to do is actually use the CPV Lab link for wherever you're sending them to off your Shaker site. So for the link that you're going to send them off your site with, just use the CPV Lab one, and then CPV Lab will take care of the redirecting and everything to where it has to go, and then tracking the pixel that fires on the conversions and everything else. Different bank account number than you used with the previous AdSense account?
Say that again?
Different bank account number than you used with previous AdSense account?
Mm, I would say so.
Do you
Because
remember if you did or not?
I did do one with the same exact bank account, and that one got banned, but I can't say it was because of that, but for just being safe, the past two that I've done, I have created a new bank account, and I've used something that, something simple like PNC Bank or whatever, just something that I can get a direct deposit number from, because that's how AdSense does it, is its deposit. So that way you can cover, and then the bank account is free. So yeah, I would recommend doing a different bank account, just setting up like a one of those, like PNC or one of those simple little banks that don't charge you anything.
Yeah. Ann here said she had a warning. I think I saw this pop up, and this is when we were talking about AdSense. She had gotten a warning about having AdSense on an Amazon site, and I wasn't aware of that. What do you recommend for affiliate link cloaking? Like we were saying, you have the pretty links that he was showing right here, Mike, and bit.ly links, things like that. Is PyWiki, he's got here, PyWiki. You're talking about which is like Google Analytics. Can you please point to how to install in a domain and track, please? Thank you. There's actually a bunch of documentation on PyWiki's site. They actually have a step-by-step installation anyway. You can download it, and I don't know if Fantastico doesn't have it in there, does it?
No,
I don't think so.
No,
I don't have Fantastico on most of my cPanel accounts. That's why I'm not sure.
You download it straight from pywik.com, pywik.org. I forget what the domain name is.
Yeah, but you just it gives you a tracking code that you put in your site.
No, so you download it from here. You download it from here, install it into your, through FileZilla or whatever, the folders, and then it goes through an actual installation, just like WordPress, that the guided installation. And then, like you said, just like analytics, it gives you every site you can add it on there. It'll give you a code that you would add at the footer, or anywhere you would put the tracking code. Most themes come with an option, or you can just add it straight into the footer, that PHP, or just there's a plugin to add tracking codes, anyway. But then it would start tracking whenever it gets traffic and stuff.
Yeah, and then Vicky made an AdSense account while she was in the webinar. Made a new one. Let's see. How do you qualify a site as working? I know you try different things, but what does a winning site niche feel like?
Gets traffic. That's all I'm looking for, that it gets traffic. I mean, because I know if it gets traffic, I can make money out of it. If it doesn't get traffic, then I'm not gonna, it's not gonna do anything. It doesn't matter what kind of offer I put on it, how pretty it looks, or how well designed it is. If there's zero traffic, then there's zero money. So that's the main thing that I look for. Is I want to be, with each site, I want it to get at least 100 visits a day or so. My good sites get between 100 to 300 visits a day. So that's what I've kind of used as a base mark, base point to if it's good or not. But it doesn't mean that every one of your sites has to do 100 a day. You could have 10, 20 sites getting 30 visits a day, and it'll be just as good. Which I have a lot of them that get 20 to 30 visits a day. But for a site, for me to say my site's good, and this could be one that I'm going to sell, it's between 100 to 300 visits a day, because that's usually what I figured out is where I can get the most money out of them.
Can we get a copy of the spreadsheet that Andres uses? I've asked around, but no one will share it. Is your spreadsheets in Facebook in the file section, or is it just the one that I put up there?
I think it's just the one you put up. I can put up the one that I've used. Mine's a list of like 15,000 that I've just. That's what I've used to build, but I can put that on there.
Yeah.
I'll just share it with VIP though.
Right. Let's see. Could you add spin tags to categories titles. You can add the spin text to titles in the regular title, not in Yoast. But
well, I think they're saying, can we add spin tags here, which we've never really tested.
Yeah, I've never actually added spin tags to a category. That's funny. After all these years, I never really had a reason to.
Let's see, window companies, window installers. Just do a quick test and see. I know we didn't code it with that in mind, but it could work. So I'm going to save the draft. I'm just going to do 5. And that's why I mean with don't be afraid to test. And no, we see right away that it doesn't.
Yeah, I didn't think it did. I was just thinking about how it was processed, and I was like, I don't think so.
But you know, the main thing with spin tags is I know Don liked the titles to be spun and obviously the content to be spun. The way I set up my sites, I like it to be the categories, just one category for each state. So I wouldn't have a reason to, but no, I mean, anytime you have a question like that, you know, don't be afraid to test it out. Because if you submit something to the support ticket, by the time we get back to you, you would have known the answer, and don't be afraid to test it out. You're not going to break anything. I mean, I just did 5 posts. I'm not going to go in here and hit delete built pages and posts because it would delete all my 1,000-something posts. So I'm just going to delete these 5 specific ones, and that's why I like working in short little batches when I'm testing things out. And I can just move these to the trash. Then the main thing is just make sure you empty that trash out.
Yeah.
Delete trash.
Once you have, okay.
So no, we just proved that no, it doesn't.
Yeah. Once you have thousands of pages built, is there an easy way to modifying all pages, like adding a header without rebuilding everything?
Yeah.
Right now,
that's what the shaker would do, right?
Right. That's what I was saying. Right now, the way that we would do that is with the prepend and append, but it would only be at the beginning and the end.
Right. So let's say like I've got a banner or something that I want to add. I don't have to change the date. I can just let me see. Hopefully, I got some kind of other image that I can use. Let's say we've got this HCG image in here. So I've got that in there, full size. I don't want it to link anywhere. I want it to be centered. So we've got that. We don't choose the date. We just submit it. It's updated all the posts, and we can actually go to the post, check them out, and we notice that now that image is at the top. And there's also, you know, if you're familiar with search and replace, either through SQL, you know, through PHPMyAdmin type setup, you can do search and replace and change things out. So let's say I wanted to get rid of this image, and I would do a search and replace for that specific code and just delete it. Because now that I've put it in there, I have no way of deleting it unless I do a search and replace, which you know, it's just good to become familiar. There's a plugin that can help you with that, or you can just go straight into the PHPMyAdmin and do that. So it's good to kind of get familiar because it will help you solve a lot of problems if you make mistakes.
What is the shortest time you've had to wait to qualify a site as a winner? How did you know that it was a winner? Did it stick? Did you do anything extra to make rankings stick? And when you flip sites, do you do anything extra to keep rankings, or do you do extra things to the site to build value? Let's start that off at the beginning. What's the shortest time you can think of that site was a winner?
I can usually tell if something's going to do good or not, honestly, within a week or two. Because if I'm not getting, you know, but it also depends on how fast it gets indexed. And we
Yeah.
use, we use crazy indexer to speed up the indexing process. We don't, well, I don't throw every single URL into an indexer. I'll do like 100 just to kind of basically I want these search engines to, like Google, to be aware that there's something there and they need to come visit. I know people that do, I know we work with some people that will do the full um, sitemap, all 15, 30,000 posts through some kind of indexing program and get it, Google to try to index every single one of them at once. But I just like to keep it simple. But after those initial 100, I will notice that over the next couple of days, over the next week or so, more and more and more posts will get indexed just because of the way it's set up with the interlinking and everything we're doing. But if, at about the 2 week mark, if I've got, if it's almost fully indexed, um, I should be seeing some traffic. If I'm not seeing
Yeah,
any traffic, then it's a dud pretty much.
yeah, as long as he's getting traffic, we pretty much know it's a winner because we'll find some way to convert that traffic. How do you know it was a winner? That was it. Did it
Traffic.
stick? I mean, did it stick is kind of like obviously some of them stick for a very long time, and then some of them are short
Yeah,
term. So
it's hit or miss, and I would say if you make it to the 6 month mark, you should be pretty safe because the ones that I've had die around the first or second month. I would
right.
say just kind of
When you
going off of my head here.
did you do anything extra to make ranking stick? Like we were saying before, we don't. I think we tried some backlinking stuff, but we never backlink any of these things. So
Right. I did do tests with backlinking before, and every single one of my sites that died had some kind of backlink, so I stay away from it for now. I'm starting to test again with kind of like my own private network of high PR, but it's very limited testing at the moment, and I can't say whether it's doing anything or not.
when you flip sites, do you do anything extra to keep rankings, or do you do extra things to the site to build value? Basically, just
I
the income that they come in with. I mean,
Right, I have not. I have not. I mean, I do keep in touch with the new owners in case they have any issues as far as, if they want to make any changes or anything. I give them tips on what they can do to increase earnings because my sites are not the best looking sites. At least the ones that I flipped recently because they're my older sites. They were just built to get traffic, make money. I wasn't really concerned with doing A/B split tests to see what's gonna convert better than the other. So there are room where they can improve that, and I tell them that, but nothing that I specifically do.
so how do you pick your domain names and choose the main keyword? I think we kind of went over that, but
Um, I don't go for a exact match as much anymore. You can. It doesn't hurt anything because of the way that if you build the post, like I told you, where you're not just hitting one keyword over and over again, you're going to be okay with that. I've had success with domains that have kind of like the niche that I'm going after in the domain, and I've had other ones where they have nothing to do with the niche and they still do well. So I don't think domains are as important as we think they are.
yeah, not anymore anyway. Exact match domain, you can buy that as long as you're not using the same keyword phrase throughout your content that you bought the domain name with. You're not going to get penalized for that. I've never had a problem with that because it's only an exact. I mean, there's really only one way criteria to tell whether you're buying an exact match domain is if you stuff the content with the same keyword. Can you spin the image that gets posted? Yeah, you could just spin the
Yes.
URLs for the images. Put the URLs for the images in spin tags. Would be probably the quick way. Can you put the map code in? Can you put the map code in chat box, please? We'll actually stick it in a text file and stick it in the Facebook file section. you put in video and how? We were putting videos in, but I don't think we do it at all anymore, do we?
Can you put in video?
Yeah, you could put in videos, but they were asking if you put in videos and how.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna put a video in, it's just as simple as, going over to YouTube.
Just grabbing their embed code and pasting
Right,
in the text.
grabbing any of the videos, and let me pause that. But just grab the share embed code, and you can set up how big you want it, but you'll be able to do that. And then let's say you wanted to rotate through a few videos, you would just do the, you would take the embed code and just have that
And spin.
Right. So let's say we wanted to add it like at the bottom here.
If you wanted to, you could put them in Spintax and a dynamic shortcode too.
Right, and that would make it to where every time the page is loaded, it has a different video. So either way, you would just throw it anywhere in the content, and that would just show that basic video. But let's say you have multiple of these, you'd be able to do the same exact thing, and pretending that these are all different videos. So then it would spin 3 different ones there. And or dynamic, like Don said, and basically what that would do is it would just show a different video every time it loads, or at least go through those 3 or 4 however many video IDs or video embed codes you put in there.
Tell us some ballpark figures for selling these sites, please. Actually, a lot of the ballpark figures, a lot of the examples is actually right on the sales page for some of the sales, but obviously not all of them because.
Well, I mean, they're all over the place, but the way you can expect to get between 10 to 20 times what they make monthly. For a long time, I was just getting 10 because that's usually what you will get through Flippa. And you might not even, the first couple of times I didn't get 10. In Flippa, you have to build up your profile, your reputation, but once you've sold a few, you're able to ask for higher prices because they trust you more. They know what to expect from you, kind of thing. And then once you have done it a few times and you know the process and you know how to build these sites really well to where you can sell them in about a year's time, then you can start talking to website brokers. Which they have a customer base that they sell to, and they can get up to 20 times what the site generates a month. But for those 20 times, be ready to provide a lot of proof that it's definitely making that amount of money, because they're really going to scrutinize the site, and it just kind of shows you that the kind of sites that we are building, they're good sites because I've passed all the tests that with my sites. And it's been a lot. They look at everything, and you do need Google Analytics on it, at least for a few months, and it does need a full year of data. But you're able to get those, but it's worth it because you're able to get 20 times monthly what they make.
Right. And as you've seen on there, I mean, there's what, $30,000, $40,000, $60,000 site sales on there or something.
Right.
So we need to build, or what is it? No, what about shaker dates? When is that done? That's after the site's completely built.
Right, that's after the site's completely built. And I was talking to Don earlier that we think it's a good idea to actually maybe visit it once a month and just shake it up, because I mean it changes the date that the post was built, it changes the order that the bot will kind of jump from post to post on the site, so it just kind of makes it like things are changing up, that you're adding new content without having to add new content.
Right. So we need to build sites with thousands and thousands of pages so they rank.
That would be the idea. I mean that's really right. I mean, for all the examples that I've shown that are making money, it's nationwide.
I mean, most
sites.
Most of those are nationwide, yeah. when you are working on your sites normally, do you do the whole build at once? If I use a VPS, do I need to limit the number of builds?
Test
Yeah,
the
I mean,
limits. Test the limits on your VPS. See if you could do all 15,000 at once, or load up the list of 15,000 cities. See where it actually times out, so that you get an idea. Let's say you do 15,000 and around 8,000, it times out. Then I would do maybe 2 separate builds of 7,500 at a time. So you have to test out the limits on your the main reason why I do my local host is because I know that I can hit build and it's going to do all 15,000, and in about an hour or so I can come back to my computer and it'll be done.
all right. But when you're, as far as do we do the whole build at once? If you're capable of doing it, the whole build's done at once, and we pretty much don't touch the site much ever again.
Yes.
What do you use to track how many visitors you get to the page? That was PyWhip, Brian. And AW stuff that you have in cPanel typically. Shaker, when running the shaker, do you ever pick a date that is before the purchase date of the domain? All the time. Do that plenty of times.
What was that again? I'm sorry, I missed it.
No, they're asking if we ever run the shaker date with a prior date than when the domain was bought.
Oh yeah, every single time.
Yeah,
every single time, because we work a lot with new domains, and that doesn't matter. The main thing, I remember somebody mentioning that I want to say that it wouldn't look right if the domain was purchased at a certain date and the content was before that. But also think about that people are changing, legitimate established companies decide to change the domain names multiple times throughout their life, the life of the company.
Companies rebrand. People let domains expire and have to put all their stuff on a new domain.
Right. So they're bringing content from that old site over to the new one, and Google has no way of knowing if that's what you did or not. So they're not going to penalize you for that. They don't worry about that.
No, some of the things you got to realize is that a lot of the stuff you see on forums and blogs and everything else, Google doesn't dig as deep as a lot of people think. It's almost like a conspiracy theory. I mean, if they had that much power, you can't spend that much processing power analyzing that deep on all the sites that are out there that are in their index. Let's see. How do you manage the ads? You talk about Ad Manager. Is it a different plugin, or does the SERPshaker? The SERPshaker does it. The Ad Manager that's in SERPshaker is pretty primitive because that's the only thing we really need. But I'm going to actually advance that a little bit, because there are some times I've run into where I'd like to do a little bit more. I mean, at one time I was actually doing stuff a few years ago with OpenX, which is an ad server, but that just was actually overkill. So, let's see, how do you build a site? How do you build the site on your local machine instead of using my HostGator reseller account? What are you using on the Mac? XAMPP?
On the Mac, I have MAMP.
MAMP. So you got MAMP, you got XAMPP, which is XAMPP, and then MAMP here.
On Windows, I've got my sister set up on WAMP, WAMP.
Yeah, and then you got XAMPP, which is another one. There's actually a bunch of them that have that are just installable. And
if there's enough interest, I can do a tutorial video on setting up.
Well, it may not be needed if we actually go ahead and do the application. So we'll wait till after this weekend before after I run some tests, because technically it'll be in a container at that point.
Okay.
Let's see. Nice procedure to transfer huge sites. What about doing a backup? How do you back up such large sites? Yeah, I'm not sure about Andre's. I mean, Ganti, on some of the servers that we have, I actually have it all back up to S3 anyway through the WHM panel. I have that backup running, and it backs up to S3 the entire server. So I'm not sure if Andre's is backing much up anyway. Are you?
I'm not really running any backups.
The
I
thing with
guess
it, I mean, most of yours, other than the dedicated servers that we have over there, the VPSs that you have are mostly in beyond hosting, right?
right, and so they have their own
So
backup service running.
yeah, they actually have images, I believe, of them if you have to have it restored, but they only do it about once a week or something.
And then, I mean, you can back up your stuff easily through cPanel.
Yeah, if you want to run it back up there.
Right, but just you go to cPanel backup. I don't have my password in to log in, but yeah, you can back up your cPanel stuff through there. I mean, all you really need to back up is your database, because that's what would make the site come back. Or I know that Backup Buddy is okay at backing up. It's just not very good at restoring the site, but you can have a backup of your database that way maybe.
Yeah. All right.
WP Migrate actually would be a good option too, now that I think about it, because you can download just the database. It gives you the option to do an export file. So you can get that export file, and then if you ever need to restore it, you'd have that there that you can upload again through. You can upload it through WP Migrate or through WP Migrate, but you can upload it to PHPMyAdmin, or if you're like on HostGator, you can just ask support to import that database for you. Only thing with HostGator is their wait time on support has gone incredibly high now.
After they got sold, their everything there has went downhill.
Yeah.
Let's see. So when you're building out these sites, how long on average does it take for the pages to index? I mean, they index pretty quickly. I mean, like Andres was saying, he throws the stuff in the crazy indexer thing that I made, but the typically even on their own.
Yeah, even if you don't, and it's a brand new domain that you just bought and put content on right away, I'd say within 2 weeks you would get some indexing action, probably before that.
It'd probably be fully indexed within that time typically. And probably within the first week you're going to see thousands anyway. So, core conversion, does it work with SERPshaker? To be honest, I've been using the DA plugin after I sold core conversion. So, but core conversion probably still works. The only problem with core conversion was it has a double scroll bar. So, if you have a DA plugin, you're better off to use it.
I think it still works. I think I got it on some alt sites.
Yeah. Let's see. Time frame for update the plugin to do 15,000 posts. Well, it typically does it. It's usually the host that's, I mean, it does the 15,000 posts, no problem. It's just the host that's typically the problem with like a shared host. So I'm working on some way to see if I can get around their limitations. But also we're talking about making it a standalone desktop app. So as far as updates, there's going to be quite a few updates coming out. So they're all going to be within the next probably few weeks. You'll start seeing more updates because we're trying to get up to 1.10, I should say, which is probably going to go pretty rapidly to that. Should we spin the whole post, or is the top and bottom enough? We had touched on that, where Andres was doing some of them completely spun, and some of them he was only adding an excerpt in, and some of them he wasn't spinning at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I have no definite answer for that because I've done it all. And They've all worked in one way or another. It just depends on how you want to approach it. And in certain niches, spinning has worked better than just doing static tests or, the static basic text. So it's just something that play with, test it around, see what results you get.
Could this be used to build a list? Would you put an opt-in form on the site? You can definitely use it to build a list.
You were doing that. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely do it to build a bunch of different niche lists. Actually, you can do pretty well at it. So yeah.
And the way Don did it is he would use the double agent plugin, and he would use these sites, and he would use the sites to kind of drive traffic to that specific landing page.
All right. So basically,
the sites themselves would not have the opt-in box. It would be the landing page.
Right. So I only had one point of conversion to worry about as far as the opt-in went, and I was just showing that same point of conversion on all the Shaker sites. What is the ClickBank? What is the ClickBank model? Find product, build site, point to sales page. Yeah, the ClickBank model, like we were saying, is kind of like, I say dig deep and look for the things that have like 25, 50 gravity, things like that, that might actually be real products. The problem with a lot of the ClickBank stuff is, and I don't do a lot with ClickBank anymore, and neither does Andres, and the thing with ClickBank is a lot of it's to make money online, and typically for these sites, you don't get a lot of money online stuff unless you're targeting specific product names that people are looking for. Like, you can do things like launch hacking and stuff like that for big products that are coming out, and rank well and do stuff with that. I have done that in the past. But as far as ClickBank goes, you kind of, if you're going to do something, you kind of have to look for something that's going to be at least a halfway decent product, like, and probably kind of stay away from the make money online niche when it comes to the ClickBank stuff, is with building them this way. Any tips, if necessary, for the pigeon poop change? The pigeon stuff that they were changing, that had to do a lot with local search, but I think a lot of it has to also do with the Google Places.
Yeah,
a lot of people are talking about those.
A lot of the pigeon stuff that I've seen talks about the how it's interacting with the places, not really just organic type websites.
Yeah, I think they had something to do with, they were trying to do some certain local searches, but it's not affecting this. I mean, seriously, they would have to, for the way that some of this local search is done and the way that SERPshaker works, I mean, they would seriously have to do one heck of a revamp to actually stop this type of ranking. You can install one. Okay, Pilot, so you can install on one domain and can add tracking other sites' domains just using the one Pilot install. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's basically like we're running your own Google Analytics. I mean, it gives you the code and then you just paste it into your blog. Probably the best place to put it would be to actually go to Appearances, Edit, and then go to the footer of your theme and paste it right in there if your theme doesn't have a place to add. I don't know what the heck they call it. Add, some of the themes will have a place where you can add extra footer
Tracking
code or
code.
CSS stuff. Yeah, or tracking code. But I typically put it in the footer just because I want to make sure the footer file of the theme, just because I want to make sure it loads last. Just because,
like, for example, even with this Genesis theme, we don't need a plugin to add the tracking code. You go to Appearance, you go to Editor, just look right here on the right-hand side for that footer, that PHP, and you basically just put in the tracking code right before this last body tag. So you put tracking code here, and then you would update the file.
Let's see. if we're trying to get our first AdSense site approved to get started, should it be a small site with only a handful of pages, not a SERP shaker site? I don't know. My AdSense account is so old. I don't remember. Do they normally ask you for the website now?
The first one, you do need to get approved, but I haven't had any issues both getting approved with a SERP shaker site set up or just a basic website. I mean, before SERP shaker, I used to work a lot with local businesses, and if I had like a local business site that I wasn't using, I would put, I think I used one of those to put accents on there, and that's the one that got approved. Once you get approved once, then you can put whatever kind of site you want on there.
Yeah. And for affiliate sites and CPA sites, it is better to build national sites or sites based on individual states. I've done it both ways. But for the most part, I think, Andre, you typically always build national, right?
I always build national. The only time we've limited is when we've had like specific requests. I know we work with one specific lead one that only wanted us, you know, they only wanted leads from these states, so we only did those states. There's another person that I'm talking to now that bought one of my sites, and they're like, you know, we only want leads from, you know, the southern area. Can you do that? So, you know, I would only do those specific states, but for the most part, I try to go national. I mean, just you like to kind of get the best chance to get traffic.
Right. Now, a lead gen company, like some of those lead places they're selling leads directly to, they might have a problem with it and just want only certain cities, and they can scrub the stuff. But if you're selling it to another company, an actual regular business, like let's say when he was talking, you're talking about home improvement. If there's an actual contractor, a big contractor or something that you're selling a site to, most of these guys have contacts. So why they wouldn't subcontract the leads that they don't handle out to other companies, I have no idea. So that's a thing to always bring up to them. Why wouldn't you do that? You can put extra money in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need multiple hosting accounts with different IPs if we want to build multiple websites in the same niches so Google ranks all of them and can't trace all the sites back to one person? That's exactly what I was talking about with the cloud player. So you don't have to.
Yeah. I mean, I have a bunch, I would say like 2 or 3 different shared hosting accounts, because I would keep them on reseller hosting before, but I mean now we've gone fully dedicated, and you know the bulk of my sites are all on just a dedicated host, and we haven't had any issues ranking multiple sites.
Actually, on Beyond Hosting, they were buying IPs back, and I had all these multiple IPs on my VPSs and stuff, and I sold all of them back to Beyond Hosting. There's a few people that have said how that WP migration tool is great. This morning, I guess some easy had something going on. They were talking about putting the affiliate site directly over the main website, which is, you know, if I had any thoughts on that as far as getting a 100% click-through, etc. And that's most of that stuff I did with core conversion originally. But it's kind of funny because it just depends on the niche. I mean, you really have to test it. And sometimes it seems like, and you'll find this as well, that sometimes when they click off the page that they're on and go to the site, your conversion's actually higher. Sometimes it's exactly the opposite. Really, it matters how well that site actually sells it. I mean, how well that product actually sells itself. Because if it's a product that doesn't convert very well, it doesn't matter if we stick links all over the Shaker site or if you show them in a DA plugin or whatever. You'll find some offers just don't convert. And the thing is, you got to remember, you're not your target audience. So when you look at a landing page, a lot of times it looks like, wow, that looks really cool. And then the ugliest landing page that you pick, or the ugliest product, the product with the ugliest landing page and sales page is the one that actually converts well. It's funny. I can't figure it out.
And you know, to be, I think I've actually had better success having like a banner ad on the site, sending them to the offer, than displaying it straight through um, double agent. The reason being is that, you know, I'm applying a local twist to things that they're normally, you know, they're looking for it locally, but here I am, you know, displaying this page where they can buy it online on through double agent. So there's a bit of a disconnect there. Whereas if I show them the site and I, you know, make some kind of thing where, you know, it lets them know that, you know, you can also buy it online. And if you want to buy it online, this is where you should buy it because of a certain offer, discount, whatever is going on. Then they, you know, they've made the decision to go visit the page, and I didn't force them to specifically go to that offer.
Right, and
But definitely test it both ways.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no definitive answer. You can never have a definitive answer for that. It always has to be tested with the offer. I mean, like some offers are going to convert better showing them in an iframe like that. Some are can convert better with people clicking off the page. It's just the way it is. I mean, I wish there was definitive answers for certain things, but there isn't. What is your favorite monetization method? Which method gives the most ROI? Really, it's kind of a cross between all the different, there's multiple streams there, so.
Yeah, I mean, I like them all because you don't have all your eggs in one basket. I mean, definitely leads. Yeah. You get good money from leads, but you've got to be at a good point where you have the system down well before you can get into leads, because getting somebody to click on an ad and buy is a lot easier than getting someone to put in their personal information. I think.
Yeah, depending on what the lead is, obviously, because some of the leads are actually rather long forms that ask some pretty intricate questions, so personal questions. Depending on the lead, obviously. I mean, obviously, if it's just an email submit CPA where you're getting $1.50 for, then it's not as hard to get somebody to put their email in, but we also get a lot of those scrubbed. Are these sites mobile optimized? That all depends on the theme.
Yes. Yeah, definitely the theme.
How do you approach Amazon products still through city and state? Now, Amazon was something that I did when we first did the local page Ninja, and you can actually approach that a bunch of different ways. And as far as Amazon goes, there's a bunch of different products. Like Andres was talking, he always tries to throw a local twist on something. You can do that because you can always find products that people can go to Walmart or down the street, a local hardware store, and buy. But and then put a local twist on it and send it to an Amazon product. But then you also have the ways of doing things, like if you want to target specific things, like specific electronics that have multiple variations of them, and you have a bunch of different model numbers, etc., because you'll be surprised how many people actually punch in different types of model numbers and stuff. So you can actually do that pretty well too, because actually what I think I did was like TVs and something else, and then when I originally did it, and I did that with a bunch of different model numbers, and the LPN sites did really well. But again, on Amazon, it depends, because it depends on the product itself. Now, if you can get something where because a lot of times you're getting 4 to 8% off an Amazon product. So if you've got something that's really high end, that 4 to 8% is actually a really nice chunk of change. Where selling a couple of those a month is great for the site. Then actually, I would target those products. I mean, I saw a lot of people when LPN was originally brought out targeting things on Amazon like DVDs and stuff. That'd be the last thing I would ever think of targeting, because there would be no money in it.
Right, right.
Let's see. What is the difference between dedicated hosting, reseller hosting, and VPS hosting? Well, that kind of depends on the hosting company. Kind of depends on the hosting company. But reseller hosting is typically still a shared hosting, which is where you're sharing the server with a bunch of different people. A VPS is actually where you're sharing a server with, it could be multiple people as well. But the difference with a VPS is you have the servers basically partitioned off. So if they say you get 2 gigabytes of RAM, this much CPU, this much hard drive space, you always have that available, and sometimes it's burstable. And you also have control over changing some of the settings, like the PHP timeouts, etc. Where if reseller hosting, you're typically not going to have any control over that. Dedicated hosting is where you're going to actually have a physical server in a data center somewhere, and that server is all yours to use.
And see, these sites, you can run them after they're built. They will run just fine on a shared hosting account. I mean, anytime I sell my sites, right, once they're built, anytime I sell my sites, I go ahead and purchase 6 months of the baby gator, and that's what I throw the site on, so that when it comes time to sell it, I can just give them the hosting account information, to have to transfer anything, and they can decide if they want to keep it there or not. And they do fine on that baby hosting account for that one specific site. But this is once they're built. When building them, that's the problem when you run into host limitations. So if you do it my way, you can build them locally and then throw them in shared hosting and be just fine. Or you can have a dedicated, you can have a BPS just specifically for building and then host them somewhere else. Whatever you want to do.
Hey, Wes. Let's see. Wes also asking if you think of any more tips and tricks. I'm trying to think, because we talked about so much stuff over the past like 3.5 hours. Can you think of anything that would also help? It's pretty much the last question in there. Wes laughing. You guys have done great. Hey, thanks, Wes. Appreciate it. I hope everybody's getting everything they can out of this. I'm hoping that we get everybody going, because there's no doubt in our minds that everybody can make money at this. Can you think of anything else, Andres, that you wanted to throw out there?
Does that mean we actually hit all the questions? The main thing that I just want to push is just test. Just build something, get it out there. Don't worry about what niche you pick. Just get something out there and start seeing if it gets traffic or not. You'll learn with each build. You'll start tweaking little things here and there with each build. You'll find your own process to speed up how fast you can build them. But you won't learn that, or you won't find out what works, what doesn't, if you don't just build something. I mean, most of you, I would bet, have an old domain sitting somewhere that you never did anything with, or even that you did do something with, but it's not making you any money. So you can just empty out that domain completely, delete it, get it, and set it up on a new hosting account, build on that, see how well that you might even do better on an older domain, because I have noticed lately that purchasing some age domains seems to kind of kickstart the process. So that's actually a good tip that we haven't touched too much on, but picking up domains through GoDaddy auctions, or using the software that Walter put for us on the group, the PR PowerShot. You can find some good domains for about $10 or so, plus the registration fee. But if it has age, it might kickstart the process. But if you've got one sitting in your hosting account in your registrar account, GoDaddy, Namecheap, whatever, and it's just sitting there not doing anything, use that to test. And it doesn't matter if it has the keywords in the domain or not. Just test it out, see what happens. You never know.
All right. And KP, you'd asked, we're almost through most of these here, but you'd asked, he's asking us stuff about like Surfshaker, Double Agent, Index Assault and stuff, which I'm familiar with those. Obviously Surfshaker I'm familiar with. So I'm familiar with both of those, obviously, like we were talking about. And what order do you use them? Basically, you would build the Surfshaker site first and index it out, and you could do something with Double Agent afterwards. He also asked, unlike most methods, you don't need to spend hundreds of dollars per month on backlinking services and article writing, etc. Exactly. You don't have to do any. We don't do any.
I mean, the only expense you have is the domain name, however much you value your time, or if you have some kind of, outsourcer building it, doing the actual building for you, and then the hosting. But once the site's out, there's nothing you need to do to it, and it will continue making money. Now, and if it's a dud, then you can rebuild if you want, or just move on to the next one. Just keep it going. These are very low maintenance sites. That for the most part will generate a decent amount of money, and the idea is to get to a point where you have a sizable network where you can, month to month what you're going to get, money wise, because of the number of sites you have.
Right. Well, like KP's saying, it's so little time and money to test that taking massive action quickly is the key, and you're exactly right. Everybody's loved the info so far. Ganty asked, as far as the desktop version of it, what kind of hardware and software do we need to run this? How is it different from local? Obviously, the faster. How is it different between LAMP and WAMP servers as far as if I make that local desktop build and it works out all right? The only problem I have with it is that on the local test build I have to use S2L Lite, so that's one of the things I have to test. But it wouldn't take. I mean, it shouldn't take anything powerful. Obviously, the more RAM and the bigger processor you have and the faster hard drive is always going to make everything faster no matter how you look at it, but it shouldn't be too bad. But as far as how is it different from local LAMP or WAMP servers, the only big difference that there would be is the fact that we already have PHP pre-configured to run as optimal as possible. No, didn't see it.
The one thing I've noticed,
oh, go ahead.
No, the one thing I have noticed is that if you do have the option of running off of a solid state drive and an SSD, that's going to speed up the site build. I mean, I can do, 15,000 posts in about an hour, I believe, fully spun, a lot faster if I don't use any spinning. So, I mean, if you have the option of running off a solid state drive, you can do that. If not, the build time just goes a little bit higher, but you won't time out as long as you got your settings set up correctly.
Verlyn said she didn't see any question from Matt Cutts. That's because he was still out doing PR for Google, promoting how Google's algorithm is so great that it can heal the sick, feed the hungry, and do everything miracles. It's still, either way you look at it, that's the problem. A lot of people are so scared of the algorithm of Google and Google itself. The problem is it's just a program. When you think of it, you take it down to its basic concepts, or basic take it down to what to its complete basics. It's just a program, so it always has flaws. Never will be perfect. Let's see. I'm going to cut off it here in a few minutes, but let's see. How long will it take me to learn how to use WAMP? Is it fairly simple? Any recommended tutorials online, or is there another software for Linux to build on my local computer? Thanks. Well, with Linux, I just install Apache, MySQL, and all that stuff anyway. So I have it on here all the time because I'm always doing development. So, but it's a little more complicated when you're doing stuff in Linux. So, as far as WAMP and all that stuff, I mean, go ahead.
If you just put install WordPress locally into, if you just put that into Google, you're going to get tutorials. I think even straight through WordPress itself. It tells you what to. That's how I learned.
Yeah, it's actually really simple as far as the setup. The MAMP and ZAMP and all that stuff, they all have installers, so they basically install themselves. The only thing is just the
settings, the PHP that INI file that you would change, and also the WordPress site that the WordPress settings you would change.
Yeah. Wes asked if we could share your local PHP INI file. I mean, we could do that. It's only about 3 or 4 settings anyway that really have to be changed. But there's a few other ways that I can think of to tweak it out so I can test on some local when I'm trying to do this local build. So we'll see about putting that up maybe in the Skype group or Facebook group.
Okay, I was gonna see if I can pull up my PHP I9 settings. It's just the max limits that you try to.
Yeah,
I don't.
max execution, you can put to like 0, and that'll turn it completely off.
I don't remember where map. Oh, here we go. Hides them, but these resource limits is what you're changing. Max execution time, max input time, memory limit. You know, like Don said, you could
And
put these at. You said at 0.
yeah, you
And
could actually put you could put the max execution time. You can actually set it at 0, and that'll disable it in PHP, so there's no max execution time. If
okay.
you're running a PHP command from the command line, it never times out. That's basically telling it to run pretty much like it would if you were running from a command line.
And then memory
Yeah,
limit would be.
Bob, I see what you're saying there. He was talking about some of the things that you can change as far as you're probably talking, yeah, WP config. You're talking about changing there, but on a shared hosting environment, if they limit it, like it will actually not follow all those directives.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah, because you can define that, you can actually set INI settings at runtime in PHP, and if it was on if you're running a local host site like this, a local build, you wouldn't have to put it in the PHP INI. You'd have to you could put it in the WP config. But it doesn't matter. If you're doing a local build, you're better off putting it in the PHP INI anyway, or if you're doing it on a dedicated or a VPS. So should we learn to build locally, or will new SS version be a fix for that? I would say give me a few days so I can take a look at it. I know I'm going to try to get it past. The problem is, even when I get around the problem with shared hosting, if we do it as the standard plugin and we're not talking about doing it like the desktop part, if I'm just talking about the plugin itself, even if I get around that, you're still limited by the shared hosting resources. So no matter what, the build's going to be slower because of everybody and their brothers on those servers, because they oversell the servers at shared hosting companies. So. Yeah, the SERP sites only need one article and post. Yeah, I mean not one shaker page for a seed to
Right.
build all the different posts and stuff out.
That's how I do it anyways. And then, I mean, that's how
Yeah,
we've been doing it.
yeah, we'll really go back in and add stuff later. I think Maribel's been playing around. Like Maribel, if you guys don't know, that's actually Andre's sister. That's also in the support stuff, and she does this stuff all the time too. And she does it for him. She does it for herself. I know she's been playing around with going back in and trying to add content to them, but I don't know what her results have been on that. We'll have to ask her. We don't typically go back to them, so. Yeah, after ranking, you can pretty up the theme and basically hide all the shaker pages, right? Exactly. After you build the site, yeah, I mean you can do whatever you want to the theme and stuff and fix it. The only thing is with the shaker right now, LPN you could actually totally deactivate when it was done. But the thing is now, if you're using any of those dynamic shortcodes, or you're using some of the other things in there, as far as like, well, dynamic shortcodes would be the one big one. I'm trying to think of anything else. But if you use any of those, then when you disable SERPshaker, you're going to disable those abilities. And is spin rewriter the better spinner? That's the only thing. The only thing we use anymore.
I know I played around with Word AI because it has the same features, but I mean, I was just so used to using Spin Rewriter that I couldn't get it to. It was slightly different than Spin Rewriter. It still gave good quality stuff, but it was just different than what I was used to, so I went back to Spin Rewriter. But I think Word AI and Spin Rewriter are the only two that actually do decent spins.
Yeah. All right, guys. Looks like we hit the end of the questions here. I hope everybody got a lot out of it. Talk in the Skype group and everything is, or in the Skype group. Why do I keep saying Skype group? Talk in the Facebook group and everything, and you know, we can always continue discussions in there as well. We're going to wrap this up. I'm going to try to edit this video and get it to everybody as soon as possible, but you know, it'll probably be at least a day, because I imagine this thing is going to be huge. So
Yeah,
probably going to try to break it up a little bit.
4 hours.
Yeah. So other than that, guys, we'll see you all in the Facebook room. I didn't say Skype that time. Later, guys.
All right, later. Peace
Hey,
out.
Ganty, you have it recorded. If I need a backup, that's good, because you never know. So I might come calling. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye-bye.